Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Makar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings be unto the hopeful elect, pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the globe, in the sincere hopes of being delivered in these last days. This is the brother Yakanan from the GMS England branch. As you can see here, I have this article. This is taken from weonnews.com, and it's entitled "Tech Bosses Take AI to Prisons as Alarmingly Dystopian Idea Proposes Chip Implantation in Criminals." Okay, and as you can see, this is dated today, which is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. And as we all, as we mentioned from time to time, you had Bishop Nate many years ago, he made the statement saying, "It's June, ain't no microchips." Well, we have an example right here showing you that things are moving quickly and forward concerning the pushing and the ultimately mandatory implantation of the MOTB, all right, which is, the microchip embedded under human flesh. Okay, we have an example right here. So the scriptures tell us not to be ignorant of any matter in a small or great, all right? So I just thought, that was spiritual. And brothers had mentioned that also in the chat, highlighting that fact, which has happened, many times throughout the years. Just showing you that, this information, concerning this technology that they want to put under people's skin is always, coming out. All right. Every year, there's articles in regards to this topic that we report upon because that's our job, right? We are watchmen of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and we keep you updated through the spirit with how things are progressing concerning biblical prophecy, all right? As it tells us in 2nd Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1, the scriptures command us to measure thou the time diligently, all right? And how do we measure the time? We measure the time by filtering events that are happening upon the earth through the holy scriptures. All right, that's an example of us measuring the time, and not only measuring the time, but measuring the time diligently. Okay, because that's what we're commanded to do. So this is heavy. All right, and this is, again, this is one step closer to the mandatory implementation of the MOTB. All right, the mark. Now, let's read a few excerpts from this. It says, top tech bosses are now taking AI to the jails and say that it can be used to predict the risk posed by certain individuals. All right, so let's stop right here. Now, notice how they use the word predict. And we've warned you in the past that they want to set up a system that deals with pre-crime and a system that deals with, ultimately thought crimes. Okay. And this is something that has been mentioned and discussed in arenas of, laws and legislation many times, all right, within the last few years. Okay. So pre-crime and thought crimes, which sounds like, it's straight out of a movie, is something that they're considering. All right. And you remember you had that film, Minority Report, which was basically about, pre-crime, all right? And you had those three, psychic mutants, I believe they were called precogs or something to that effect. And they would have, these visions. And they'll be able to predict, where a crime was going to take place and what the crime was and, who was going to be attached to the crime. All right, very good film. I might even watch that, Lord willing, today if I get time. But, that's an example of where they're heading in this society, all right? Full and complete control. And they were using, this technology, which is the MOTB, in order to do it. All right, showing you that, a lot of these sci-fi films and TV series is what? Predictive programming. All right, that's exactly what it is. It's predictive programming, giving you a snippet of their desires, where they want things to be in the future. All right. So again, it says, top tech bosses are now taking AI to the jails and say that it can be used to predict the risk posed by certain individuals. Okay. It says at a roundtable event with the UK Prisons Minister Lord Timpson, representatives from tech firms proposed inserting microchips under the skin of criminals to monitor their movements. Okay, so who suggested this? Representatives from tech firms. Okay, and look how much of these independent startup tech companies that you have that are working on their own CHIP implantation, technology. There's so many of them out there. Okay, of course you have Neuralink, you have Synchron, right, which is another one, and there's many other ones out there that are all aiming to do the same thing, implant CHIPs, all right, under the skin on a mass level. Okay, this is what it's all about. They're all on the same agenda, and this is the elites of Esau Edom pushing this vibration ultimately. All right. Now it says from tech firms propose inserting microchips under the skin of criminals who monitor their movements. All right. So it's all about tracking and tracing. Okay. So they want full control. All right. They want control of what you eat, what you drink, where you go, your thoughts, your emotions. Okay, they want full control. And Esau's not going to stop until this is fulfilled. Mainly because it's biblical prophecy and it's really the will of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. All right, that this be accomplished upon the earth. These are the necessary evils that must be accomplished. All right. So it says they also put forward the idea of driverless prison vans and robot-run jails. Executives from over 30 companies, including Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, sat down with Timpson last year. So all of you correctional officers, anyone that works in the system, the jail system, prison system, your jobs are going to be gone too. All right? Because they're looking to replace everyone in all of these industries, okay, with robots. All right? So things are going to get really brutal out here, upon the earth, man. All right? Can you imagine a prison, system, just run by robots, cyborgs, all right? Telling you what to do, unlocking, the jail cell and, putting you back in. And of course, they're going to be armed. And you ain't gonna be able to reason with them, all right, or have them show compassion upon you, all right. So it's gonna be complete demolition, if you buck up, all right. This is the kind of society that Esau Edom, is bringing into fruition. It says they also put forward the idea of driverless prison vans and robot-run jails. Executives from over 30 companies, including Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, sat down with Timpson last year. However, the details are being revealed only now. The minister said at a meeting, "I want technology to play an integral role in tackling crime and making our streets safer." And out here in the UK, you now have a greater, influx of CCTV. And they also have these CCTV police vans now that continuously, capture individuals' faces, okay? And they have a database, and if it pings off on a particular individual, they run for you, okay? And they get you, they take you into custody. And if you match the description, all right, that you flagged up, against, they take you in straight away. And it's happened many times. Okay, so they're really, gridding, this society off and making it impossible for anyone to move with any form of liberty. Okay, and again, this is all biblical prophecy. All right, scriptures say, a leopard shall watch over your cities. Now it says here, Foxglove, a group that exposed the abuse of tech by governments and companies, filed a Freedom of Information request to learn about what transpired at the gathering. All right, so this was only revealed because this firm, that they've just named, Foxglove, filed a Freedom of Information, to actually find out what was discussed. And this is what was revealed, showing you that, the elites of Esau Edom, all right, they're looking to bring forth this social credit score, MOTB system society in effect, very soon. All right. And again, to highlight 2030, they want all of these things in their mind, accomplished by the year 2030. So you have to really think about how drastic certain things are going to be, changed in society. There's going to be major changes in society that's going to affect a lot of people's lives. But again, you have these wicked, false preachers and leaders out there not warning the people, not warning the congregation about what's really about to go down. All right, so you guys are not spiritually or mentally prepared for these last days, man. All right, but through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, we've been pushing this. All right, we've been in this New World Order mindset and mind frame, for the longest time. We've been in the spirit of detaching and severing ourselves from this system, okay? Because that's the spirit that Yahweh Shem Yahushai wants us to be in. Not being more attached, not being, not being, mentally, embedded and dedicated, to this society that's about to be thrown down and destroyed. Okay, because if you're mentally, entangled in this place, then you're gonna go down with it. All right. Now, it says here, talking to prison newspaper Inside Time, the group described the proposals as alarmingly dystopian. It added it's worrying that justice ministers have sat with the tech sector to discuss using robots to manage prisoners, implanting devices under people's skin to track their behavior, or using computers to predict what they will do in the future. All right, that's a crazy world. And again, that's a world that they show you, they broadcast to you in movies and in TV series, but that is actually a reality that they're getting ready to roll out. Predictive programming. Okay, so we are definitely in that time, This is beautiful. Let's get a few scriptures. This is we'll start with the mark. All right, let's get that, because we ain't gonna stop bringing this out until the end. All right, until the famine of the word is activated upon the earth. So this is Revelation. Let's get straight to the point. Chapter 13 and verse 16. And it reads, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. And when you go into that word mark, it goes into the Greek charagma, okay, which is a cutting, in the flesh. Okay, this is something that's going to be inserted into you. To receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Okay, and again, it's of no coincidence that whenever you see this technology, it's either promoted to be in your head or in your hand. That's biblical prophecy. Okay, there is no coincidences here. This is all the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai bringing this into fruition. And that's why the scriptures say we have a more sure word of prophecy. Okay, because for you to read, this 16th verse right here in Revelation 13, all right, so for you to read this and come to any other conclusion other than what we teach, all right, you are, clearly you've sold out. Clearly the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai is not supping or dealing with you in any way if you can't see this, all right. And it says, verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right. So you're not going to be able to buy. You're not going to be able to sell. You're not going to be making any form of trade in this system on the grid, that's coming without that technology within you. Okay. That's going to be something that you need to partake in society. Right. But we know that the elect of Yahweh Shem Yahushai is not going to be tainted, is not going to be subject to taking this mark. All right. And that's why the scriptures say also in the book of Revelation that the elect will have victory over the beast, over his image, all right, which is a system, and over his mark. All right. So the elect are going to have victory over all of these things. Why? Because they trusted in Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right. And they made the Lord their strength. And they didn't ultimately trust in the chariots of Egypt and the strength that they could physically see before them. All right. We trust in the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right. So with that, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. And until next time, I'll say shalom.